Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the False Nine podcast. It's me, Stephen, and Charlie Luke Connor once again. Um, we're sort of we've skipped over the FA Cup weekend because it doesn't matter, to be honest with you. Even though it's not because we got knocked out, it just doesn't matter. So we're going to start with the Southampton Arsenal game. Um, Arsenal came out 3-1 winners. Actually, they played in the cup, to be fair, didn't they? 1-0, was it, to Southampton in the cup? Yeah, I think so. And then 3-1 winners. Pepe actually scored for once, which is really surprised, to be honest with you. But I thought I caught a bit of it, to be fair. I couldn't watch all of it, but I caught a bit of it. And I thought, I don't know, I was just a bit like, obviously Southampton beat us. Maybe that's my judgment, like my blind judgment, just thinking Southampton should turn over Arsenal easier. But I just thought they probably will come out of that disappointed, considering they took the lead too. But yeah, Connor, what were your thoughts on that actually?
And well, I didn't really watch much of it either. I sort of watched the highlights and watched sort of highlights and stuff like that. And Arsenal, they seem to, Lacazette, Pepe, and Saka all scored, which is, I mean, it's kind of like they sort of were playing a front four really with Lacazette ahead of Pepe, Smith Rowe, and Saka, and they all seem to actually finally playing well together for the first time. And Southampton, they were without Bertrand, which I know none of us here probably rate at all. And they had some academy guy, Jake Vokins there, and then did Jan Valery at right back, and they got exposed so much. So like Southampton had a lot more possession, but they just defensively they're all over the place. Arthur clinical again, as I said for once.
Yeah, um, I I think now Arsenal are unbeaten in six, if I'm not wrong. And look, we've like I think definitely over the December period we were, or the start of December, like November, when Arsenal were kind of losing every game more or less. We were very critical of like Arteta and stuff, and like the whole, not having anyone to create in the middle. And then Smith Rowe has emerged as this new talent, that another talent, to be fair, because they've Saka, Martinelli, and stuff like that. Um, Charlie, how impressive have you been with Smith Rowe, and like what do you think? How big of an impact has he made, even though he's like 20? Like he's literally made a huge impact the way they play.
Yeah, I think he's been very good, but I think he came off injured in that game, so that's going to be a worry for Arsenal. I think obviously we're playing them on the weekend, so if Smith Rowe can't play, then that's a big plus for us. Although they've brought in Odegaard, so I'm not sure if Odegaard is going to take Smith Rowe's place now. I'd say it'll be close, but I'd say Odegaard will get the nod just because he is older than Smith Rowe. He has more experience in some of Europe's top league. I think it's a good signing from Arsenal, but they're sort of overhyping it. Like it's only to the end of the season. I don't think Odegaard is going to look at staying there really. Sort of like Ceballos, he's trying to use
Mm.
Arsenal as a platform to go back to Real Madrid and try and get a regular place. But back to Smith Rowe, I think he's been excellent. Along with Saka as well, they seem to be linking up really well. And then Pepe finally contributed to the team there. I watched the last hour of the match. He seemed pretty good. I saw a few nutmegs. His goal was a good finish. I think he was at fault for Southampton's goal. He didn't pick up on the edge of the box. But other than that, I think Arsenal had a very solid game, and I'd argue they're a better team when Aubameyang doesn't play. To be honest, if you look at their results without Aubameyang, I think they've nearly won every game. Now, that's not to say Aubameyang isn't one of their best players, but for in terms of the team, they definitely play a lot better when the likes
Yeah,
of Aubameyang can't play. And I think Lacazette has been good this season as well. To be fair to him, he's turned around what seemed to be bad form last season, and I think he's on 10 goals for the season now. So that's a decent return from Lacazette.
yeah. The Aubameyang thing. I think, Luke, what do you think it is? The fact that they look better. I think you can say they look better. I think more they look more balanced. To be fair, is there over reliance on them, or is it something else, Luke?
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, sometimes we all know Aubameyang's a great player, but sometimes teams can just function better without certain players in it for one reason or another. So obviously Aubameyang, he's been vital for the past few seasons, but he hasn't been anywhere near the same type of form this season. And I would argue when he's not scoring, he doesn't bring much to the team in terms of creativity or assists. So if he's not scoring, then the team doesn't really function properly because he's not offering much like else other than goals. So if you can bring someone else in that might offer a bit more creativity or who's just on better form, the team can look better all.
Yeah, I think it's been established he's had problems off the pitch and stuff like that. But I think if they can somehow get him like back amongst the goals soon, and they can keep the likes of Saka, Smith Rowe, Odegaard fit, they finally have now. They finally look like a kind of attacking force instead of just relying on one person to get goals. And I think Arteta's done well to turn it around because, to be fair, he probably was on the verge of being sacked in November, December, and now they've really bounced back. I think that the win against Chelsea was the catalyst. And it's probably the catalyst, to be fair, for it was weird because Arteta got sacked and Lampard was apparently doing really well. Then they lost to Arsenal. Chelsea went downhill and now Arsenal are just on the up. So it's weird how that happened, but I think Arteta's done well to turn around, definitely, and they're more exciting to watch. I think maybe, despite playing well, I think Pepe needs to be wary of like the likes of Odegaard coming in now, Smith Rowe, Saka's playing well, Martinelli's back, Aubameyang's still coming to the team. Like he could find himself out of the team, 100%. So I think that kind of game might have been the product of a kick up the hole from Arteta, to be honest with you, to really stake his claim, and he's done that. So it's all positive for Arsenal. Last question to everyone: do you think now they can kick on and challenge for top four, or no? I'll go to Connor first. What do you think?
And no, I wouldn't really go as far as top four, but like obviously the way the season's playing out at the moment, like wouldn't write anyone off for a top four or even the title at this stage. But no, with Arsenal, I just think they're way too inconsistent, to be honest with you. And I thought against Southampton, I wouldn't say it was like a really good performance. I think they just saw two really inexperienced fullbacks, and their winger Saka and Pepe just went at them. Now fair play to them, they did score 3 good goals, but and Arsenal have been playing better since. But I think Europa League is like a much more realistic target for them. Like I don't think Arteta will be saying to the players, like, oh, we expect to, or like in his own head, he's not going to be thinking about Champions League. He'll be thinking about getting European football.
What about you, Charlie?
Well, I'm hoping the Showtime Reds can just put them in their place on the weekend, but what will be, I suppose. But I think most of their good play came through Cedric, and he doesn't even play most of the time. So, like, maybe it was just, I wouldn't say a lucky win, but they certainly need to be more consistent because their breaking down the deep blocks hasn't been good enough. I think if they keep playing like they did, then they could have a shout with top four, but I do think Europa League is more realistic.
And Luke?
I think looking at their fixtures, they do actually have quite a difficult run coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform over those fixtures. And also they have a pretty tough one in the Europa League as well with Benfica. So Arteta could be under a lot of pressure again in the next few weeks. So we'll have to wait and see how they perform. I think Partey and Xhaka have done well when they've played together. So if they can keep it up, then I'd say they could be looking at Europa League, but I don't think they can make top four.
Yeah, I don't think either, to be fair. I just wanted to ask the question. I think they're probably, I think defensively still, they've been solid recently, but I just think there's a mistake in at least two of them. I'm talking Bellerin and Louise or whoever's back there. So, but I think like if they can get a Europa League spot and, even on the table, look close to top four and they're not too far off, like that's progress under Arteta. And he just needs to be backed again, I suppose. There's a lot of work to do there, but they're on the right track again, which is good to see because I think everyone kind of understands Arteta's a good manager. and kind of not want to do well. When no one likes Arsenal, but like they don't like to see a young manager kind of fail. Um, so yeah, but to talk about young managers failing, Frank Lampard obviously doesn't have the managerial kind of. He's just not as good a manager as Gerrard, and he wasn't as good of a player as Gerrard. So at least we've kind of settled that now. He's been sacked, unfortunately. Um, Tuchel's coming in. So just before we move on to Chelsea Wolves and Tuchel's first game, did you think, like, I'll go to you, Charlie, first. What do you think? You know, do you think Lampard not deserved the sack, but do you think it was coming at some point, even if it was at the end of the season?
Well, firstly, I don't think he should have got the job in the first place, but that's besides the point. I think it was slightly harsh considering it was probably their first really bad run of form. He didn't really get a chance to turn around. He got sacked after a win, which is it's strange to be honest. I think the signings he brought in haven't helped. Whether he brought them in or not remains to be answered. But I think Werner's been shocking. Ziyech, who we all thought would hit the ground running, he's been dreadful since he's come back from injury. Havertz just looks a shadow of his former self, and then Thiago Silva has been the one sort of consistent one. But again, there's no one to pair him with. Chelsea's defenders are really poor, if we're being honest. Rudiger, Christensen, and Zuma have all been quite inconsistent. So I think he was unlucky in a way. But when there's managers like Tuchel available and they're in such a bad run of form, I don't think you can be too surprised when you're not showing what you can actually do. It didn't look like he implemented any style of play. It didn't look like he was going to turn it around, and the overall lack of experience he had just led to him inevitably getting sacked. So I think he'll feel hard done by, but you can also see where Chelsea are coming from considering the talent that they have at their disposal.
Yeah, I think you kind of feel bad for him because when he was offered, like, to be fair, like I agree with him not being offered a job. Like, he came sixth with Derby, who I think had the biggest budget in the championship at the time. So like he wasn't particularly overachieving. He got them in the playoffs. He didn't get them up. So it probably wasn't a success in that way, to be fair. But like obviously when Chelsea came calling, you're obviously going to take the job. Do you know what I mean? So you can't blame him for taking it. But yeah, I don't know. I think like Chelsea, to be fair, like Tuchel's not going to come in now and get them top four because he has to implement the style. He has to get the right players working. Like I don't understand why they could just give him to the end of the season. Like it wouldn't have made a difference in my eyes because I think they're not going to get top four anyway. So yeah, kind of what are your kind of thoughts on it there? Like yeah, what are just your general thoughts, to be honest with you? Because it's a weird one to kind of understand.
Yeah, I mean, what Charlie was saying there about like Lampard, like he didn't do anything like major. Like he went to Derby, like he didn't even get them up. And like the only reason he got the Chelsea job is because he's a Chelsea legend. Like that's the bottom line. And like Abramovich, we know the history there at Chelsea. They never give the manager his time. Like you see with all of them. And I mean, if you're not going to give a manager time now, I'm not saying that Lampard should have been given more time or he shouldn't have been. But all I'm saying is, when you have a history like Chelsea and like if you go on a run like that, like and it's only one run, that's all it takes for him to be sacked. And they're looking at mid-table, and the owners are like, oh, we want to get Champions League, which I mean, with the players that they have in the squad, they should be getting Champions League. They have one of the
Yeah,
strongest squads in the league, but the players that have been brought in, they just haven't performed at all. Um, so yeah, like I mean, if I was Chelsea, like I probably would have given them longer to be honest. But yeah, like obviously Chelsea have the history of just sacking them when things don't go right for them.
yeah. Luke, well, I want to move on to the game, but Luke, like, what you for him, Lampard next now, like, obviously, like the pinnacle of any ex player's career is to manage kind of in terms of pinnacle managerial career is to manage probably their former club. It's like where does Lampard go from here? Does he take a break from management, go back into punditry, or would you like to see him go straight back in if he's offered a job?
To be honest, who would offer Lampard a job at this stage?
Yeah,
Like, I don't see any clubs available apart from maybe back down in the Championship that might actually want to take Lampard on board. I think I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him back at Chelsea one day, or even at his old club West Ham or something. But
mm,
like, I think if the Chelsea board thought they were going to hire Frank Lampard and he was going to win the league within 2 seasons, I think they're a bit delusional, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
I mean, he didn't do much with Derby. I mean, he got them sixth, I think, and then they did well in the playoffs, but they didn't win them. So, like,
mhm,
I don't think Lampard was ever going to win a league in his first 2 seasons. But I have to say, it's no surprise that the media have come out and said it's so harsh on him. But they'll say nothing about Maurizio Sarri, who won the Europa League with Chelsea and then got sacked. So
yeah.
apparently
He came third.
he's an awful manager and deserved to be sacked. But Lampard, he deserved more time. But
Mm,
I think that's a debate for a different day, to be honest.
yeah, but yeah, we'll move on to Chelsea Wolves anyway. Tuchel's first game. I remember I was on Twitter I like a couple hours before the match, and I saw that Hudson Odoi was going to play right back. There's or right wing back. There's rumours. Um, Mount didn't start. Werner didn't start. Is that kind of in terms of the starting lineup, right, Charlie? In terms of the starting lineup, do you think he's kind of sent the message there, or do you just think he's just gone off the 11 players he's seen in the one training session they've had?
Well, I think he sort of just picked the international renowned players. If you look at it,
Yeah,
like Kovacic, Real Madrid, Havertz, obviously big talent, and then Jorginho in the midfield, who there was rumours he tried to sign when he was PSG manager. So he was always going to give them a chance. Even if you look at, he didn't play any of the youngsters really, apart from Hudson-Odoi, and that was out of position. I think Reece James would be a lot more suited to a right wing back role than Hudson-Odoi, even though I do rate Hudson-Odoi highly. I think it was a dreadful game of football, to be honest. Like, Chelsea just kept the ball, did nothing really, didn't play any incisive passes, didn't try and carve Wolves open. And then when Wolves got it, they were really poor on the counter attack, which isn't something you normally associate with Wolves. But they couldn't get Adama involved, they couldn't get Neto involved, and it was just a lackluster game, and like it wasn't even really worth watching in the end, to be honest. Like, I know it's Tuchel's first game, but you'd think the players would want to show him a bit more than they showed, rather than just playing it safe. Whether that's just they're out of confidence or something, but like no one really showed anything apart from a few good moments from Hudson-Odoi. And I'm not sure if he's going to persist with that system, but I can't see Hudson-Odoi sticking around if he's going to be played right wing back. I mean, I think he's one of the best talents in the world, to be honest, and the way he's been used by Chelsea so far is just ridiculous. Like, he could be on Sancho's level, but he doesn't get the game time. So everyone talks about Sancho and no one talks about him.
yeah. The it was weird though because like, and if you've actually realized a lot of the Chelsea kind of media on the social channels have been a lot of it has been centered around Hudson Odoi. So it's clear they're trying to push him as kind of the poster boy of this new era and stuff like that. So um kind of on the game yourself, if you saw any bit, nil all obviously. I think Chelsea had like 70 something percent possession or something like that. It was ridiculous. Is it just too early to see anything from Tuchel, or were you did you catch anything of interest in how they played?
But again, it was kind of similar to the Southampton Arsenal match. I didn't really get to watch it, so I sort of watched the highlights of it. And I mean, Tuchel, I think he's come in and he's tried to change up the system immediately, which is, I mean, it's a good sign kind of from a new manager, like to come in and get the new ideas like straight out there. I think he only had one training session with them before the match, and like he did make a brave move. He switched up the team quite a bit, but from what I could see on the highlights, they're just Chelsea were too slow when they're like in their build up. It's almost like they're too afraid to concede, so they're just playing really safe. And I mean, like it will take time, but obviously like it's not the ideal start. You expect a new manager to come in and there to be a big reaction from the players. But yeah, I thought Hudson-Odoi looked really bright, and I still think Giroud up front. I actually like if they're getting crossed into the box from the wing backs, because that's what he's either playing a back three or a back five too. Well, that's what his preferred formation. And if they're going to be getting crossed into Giroud, like we know Giroud can score, so might be the way forward for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of form any consensus on them yet, but it's definitely an interesting watch. But Luke, on Wolves, the 13th now, and that probably was a decent point for them, to be fair. What's kind of happened? What's obviously Jimenez's injury is huge. That's probably the reason why they're not doing as well. Was there anything else you've seen that that's going to give you an indication that they're declining anyway, or they're just not at their usual best?
I think like when you see that Nuno goes back to a back four, like he did that for a few games previously. He went back to a back five for Chelsea, but when he's changing the system, it's clear that something's not working. So, like, I think João Moutinho hasn't been. I think he's aging. He doesn't have the ability to get around the pitch. They've been hit by injuries. I mean, they don't have their left wing back Johnny. Then Donker was injured. Bolly was out for a few games, and I think if you look at Wolves, they were winning a lot of games 1-0 in the second half with like Jimenez goals. Now they don't have Jimenez, so they just seem to be losing out on the fine margins and losing 1 or 2-0 every game. I think the front three of Neto, Adama, and Podence, they're all kind of the same. Like none of them offer something different. They need like an actual striker in there that gives them a goal threat and also holds up the play and links it up and can be a focal point. But I don't think Fabio Silva's up to much since he's come in. I think they paid around 40 million for him, and I don't think he's done anything really. So I think Wolves will be looking at mid-table this season, to be honest.
Yeah, and him obviously. I think the news came out of Jimenez. He's likely going to play the season, which is very good news. It's good to see. But yeah, moving on to West Brom v Man City 5-0. Like, is it just City's title to lose now, or can you see anyone coming back into it? Because they're not even. The thing is, like, okay, beating West Brom, like, I know we didn't do it, right? But like, it probably doesn't give it kind of. It's not a statement, if you get me. But 5-0, obviously, but it's just the fact they're not conceding. That's the worry as a Liverpool fan. They're not conceding. And Connor, going to you first. Do you think it's City's time to lose now, especially with Liverpool's injuries that we'll move on to? United kind of possibly stumbling now. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think like City. I think at the start of the season, everyone thought it'd be between Liverpool and City again. I mean, with Liverpool sort of gone out of form with the injuries, I know they've obviously just won at the weekend, but City have had like De Bruyne out, Aguero out, Jesus, and people were thinking they'd flop, but they've just been getting better. So like I think it's completely like in City's hands now, to be honest. The one thing I would say is, I think Mahrez is like he is a must start. Like he's literally like I know he prefers to be out on the right, but I think he's playing centrally against West Brom, and he scored. He just anytime he seems to get game time, he does really well. So yeah, now City are hitting form like right at the right time, and they could extend like quite a big gap at the moment, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can't see anyone catching them, to be honest with you. They've Sheffield at the weekend at home. So yeah, I can't see anyone catching them. I think if Liverpool, as a Liverpool perspective, you can say the same about United too. If we can stay in touch until we play them, maybe we have a chance of catching them. I still think there's a blip in them, 100%. Around Champions League especially, because I feel if they can get knocked out of the Champions League, that could curtail their whole season, because their whole season, definitely the last 2 years, has been centered around the Champions League and winning it, which is why Pep was brought in the first place. But yeah, like I don't know. It's hopefully we can catch them. It's looking unlikely at this stage, but Luke, for in terms of kind of like as a United fan, right? Your perspective, what can you what do you think needs to go wrong for City, um, in order to catch them, or do you think that it's not over yet? It's like, to be fair, you're only a point behind them. Obviously, they have a game and a half, but do you think what has to go wrong really for the likes of us as well to catch up?
I think they need an injury crisis, to be honest, and I think it has to be certain players that get injured. I think I think if they lose Diaz, they might be in a bit of trouble. But then again, they do have Laporte to come in, so like if you don't concede goals, you're not going to lose. It's as simple as. So I think you have to be looking at the top teams like Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, United. They have to be the ones that start taking points off City. Otherwise, they're going to run away with it because like they will score goals against the lower teams, and if they don't concede, then that means they win the game. So they're going to be very difficult to stop. I think some of their players are in sensational form at the moment, like Foden. Gundogan in particularly has been brilliant. I think he's got 6 goals in his last 8 games or something. That's very impressive for a midfielder. So they look pretty formidable at the moment.
Yeah. Charlie, just to talk about West Brom. We've probably said about 15 million times that they're going down. Were you disappointed? Obviously, look at City, like you can't expect them to take any points off them just because the quality gap is ridiculous. But were you disappointed that like the game was over so quickly and like you expect Sam Allardyce to be Sam Allardyce seems to be a bit more resolute?
Yeah, I thought it was really surprising, to be honest. I mean, that's not something you associate with the Sam Allardyce team at all, just getting absolutely trashed in the manner they did. I think they need to bring in a striker. I don't even know who plays up front for West Brom. I think it's Carlin Grant or Callan Robinson. I mean, you're not going to get out of relegation trouble with that. And then I think the linesman did make a mistake with the second goal. I think he shouldn't have flagged. Like he should have put his flag up at the end. What? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, she made a mistake. That's the main thing.
Oh, you're got that's it, Charlie.
So I'll just cut in there. It seems like the way like the rule is now. Obviously, you have to wait until the plays are over to put up the flag, and like sometimes you can blatantly see like players like a few meters offside, they put up the flag, and of course like the one time where they're actually onside, they put it up. Like I think that rule needs to be looked at as well because it's frustrating to watch that you have to wait for the end of the play for it to be given, like when it's so obvious like that.
Yeah, Charlie, you need to be careful because you'd be cancelled if you miss
I'd like to formally apologise. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Statement on Twitter.
Charlie, we're gonna lose our sponsor for the video now.
Yeah. So I think there's not a lot to kind of go into there. To be fair, it's just City being boring. To be fair, I saw a couple of things. It's like, are you even bothered about City winning it? Like, it just doesn't feel annoying. It's just like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. That's not a dig, by the way. I'm just saying it doesn't mean anything. Obviously, it might be different for you because it's the same city and all that. But like, it's just City, isn't it? But hopefully we can catch up to them because it's been a good season so far. It's been exciting. It's been unexpected. It'd be annoying if someone runs away with it. But I do think around the Champions League when that comes back, that could be pivotal to see if they can keep it up in the league. So just moving on to probably actually not my favorite, my second favorite game of the week, and it was Sheffield United v Manchester United. I'll go to Charlie first as a United fan. What's gone wrong? What's happened?
Well, I don't think it's surprising, to be honest. I think this has been building up for weeks now. The look we were getting was extraordinary, to be honest. With every long shot we took seemed to be going top corner. We seemed to just be getting really jammy goals, and we didn't against Sheffield. I thought part of that was down to poor refereeing. I think it was a foul on De Gea, and I don't think it was a foul on Ramsdale. But I think our front three were awful, particularly Martial. That's the worst game I've ever seen him have. He was absolutely diabolical, if we're being honest. He didn't he didn't seem to be trying even, and some of his passing was disgraceful, if we're being honest. Uh, then Rashford, I mean, I don't rate him as highly as other United fans. I think if you put a deep block in front of him, he's pretty much useless, if we're being honest. If you look at his average position, it's basically Martial is more to the left and Rashford is down the middle. And Rashford was the one playing off the left, and Bruno is also in the middle. So we're just clogging up the middle of the pit. Bruno Fernandes just plays striker. If you actually look at the position,
Yeah, he basically falls behind.
he drops back in for defensive shape and sort of picks up the centre defensive mid. Now, we didn't against Liverpool, and that's why Thiago sort of ran the game for the first few minutes in the league game. So I think Bruno's playing way too high up the pitch. I think Axel Tuanzebe had a really bad game, but I'm not gonna blame him, because you can't come in every 2 or 3 months for one game and expect to be good. I think whoever injured Eric Bailly one day before the game, a contact injury in training, I mean, that's just ridiculous. And that's cost us that. If Eric Bailly had played, we probably would have won, because if you look at the first goal, Tuanzebe misses the header as well. And then obviously he scored I'm going to call it an own goal. That's twice Tuanzebe's played in the league now, and he scored an own goal in both games. Like, I know I said you can't expect him to play well, but when you're coming in, you don't really want to be doing that. I mean, that's just rubbish, if we're being honest. Like, he should have cleared it initially as well. I've backed Tuanzebe. He's one of the players I like, but he hasn't been good enough when he's come in. I think Pogba was poor. I'm not sure what our fans were on about. I think Matic was absolutely dreadful as well. He dropped in at times to make it a back three, and I just don't see the point of it, because then Pogba's just alone in midfield, and there was just a square of Sheffield players around Pogba the entire game. He was never going to get on the ball. He was never going to have a massive effect, because effectively it was a 1v4 whenever he got the ball. And I've been really disappointed with Alex Telles as well, if we're being honest. I know he got an assist, but some of his play is just absolutely garbage. He just crosses it in when no one's in the box. He forces the ball forward. His defending is lackluster. I know, Stephen, you already said this, so we found out.
Okay. Are you okay? Just make sure we're talking about Telles, yeah. Right. Yeah. I've said this for ages. Okay, I've said it for ages. He is not good. Like, he's not. He's literally not. Like, Luke Shaw's levels ahead of him. It's because people hyped him up on Twitter saying, "Oh, look at this comp that I found." Like, seriously, I watched him against Liverpool twice. He got torn to shreds. He can't defend. Even open play, like, I look at his crossing, I'm like, Luke Shaw could probably do that. Dead ball's obviously good, but Bruno takes them anyway. So, just it wasn't the right left back to buy anyway. Like, definitely, I think maybe at the time it might have felt right because of Luke Shaw, but Luke Shaw's picked it up. But yeah, on the game itself, Tuanzebe, I honestly give no blame to, because you're gonna make mistakes when like when he hasn't played since Paris, has he? Was it the Paris game he hasn't played since?
Played Leicester, I think.
Anyway, it's been ages, right? Like, you're going to make mistakes, so you're not match fit. So, like, that was stupid, and like, obviously the abuse is definitely shouldn't be tolerated. But yeah, on the whole, I thought, like, you see the games, right? Those games like that, and deep block. I'm looking at Bruno Fernandes against deep blocks is nullified. Rashford, like you said, Green wasn't that good. You're expecting someone like Pogba to, because in terms of like ability, Pogba is probably far to Bruno. Like, the many times I saw Bruno just launch it over the top to no one, I was like, "What are you doing? Keep the ball." But there's someone like Pogba. I was expecting him in the last 20, 25 minutes to start dictating the play. And he just, I don't know, it's weird. Like, the game just seems to like pass by Pogba a lot. Now, I don't want to, it's not have an agenda now, but like, there's games where I'm like, this game's for you to kind of grab by the scruff of the neck and kind of dictate, and the game just went by him. The second goal, Pogba could have closed him down. Who's not Tuanzebe? Telles probably should have closed him down. Who else was there? Might have been Rashford. He was just standing there, and yeah, I don't think we were expecting this result, but I think in terms of like being able to sustain the form that they have, it probably wasn't at all. Yeah, it probably wasn't gonna carry on. But Luke, where do United go from here now? Arsenal at the weekend, right? Where would you go from here?
I think a lot of things have to change, to be honest. I mean, there was 3 incidences where I was just appalled at our players against Sheffield. I mean, at one stage, Pogba lost the ball and he just throws his arms up. Start
Yeah, he does
sprinting
that.
back, mate. Start sprinting back. Don't
Yeah.
fucking throw your arms up. Then in the second half, we've got Rashford. He tells Maguire to mark the overlap. Maguire goes and marks the overlap. And Rashford stops running and lets the guy walk inside him. And Rashford just stands there and does nothing. And then you've got Martial, who gave the ball away with one of the most shambolic passes you'll ever see. And then just throws his arms up and lets the guy run by him. Like, you are three of the best players at the club, and we're supposed to be in a title race, and you are just standing there, not offering anything in the game, and then doing nothing defensively. Like, it's no surprise that you're conceding 2 goals when you're just carrying 3 players who don't want to defend. They need to sort their attitudes out. It's not acceptable. I think I'll keep Pogba in, but and probably Rashford for the counter attack. But I think Martial should definitely be benched against Arsenal. I think Greenwood, Cavani, and Rashford should probably be starting that game, and Martial should be coming off the bench, trying to play himself back into a bit of form, because that was an unacceptable performance. There was no desire to score a goal, no one getting into the box, no runs in behind. It was just terrible, really. It was actually so disappointing, the whole game in general. I think if you look at our fullbacks, Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, you look at where Alexander Arnold was for Liverpool last night in the opponent's box. I don't think I even recall at any stage this season our fullback getting in the box. And you've got City, even Arsenal, whose fullbacks are in the box regularly, and Liverpool. So, and Matic dropping in to make it a back three and leaving Pogba isolated the entire game. That was just poor tactics, really. I definitely would have risked Lindelof against them because Boy's probably going to be back on the weekend. So Lindelof probably could have played that match on Wednesday, and maybe it would have been a different result. So I definitely think Ollie made a few mistakes, but looking forward to the Arsenal game. I think we all know United are a better team than Arsenal, but the last few times we played them, we just haven't beaten them. I think there's a problem with United. They show up, they think they're better than teams, and then they don't perform and they just lose the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again, to be honest, because this is a regular occurrence under Ollie. We lose one game, then we go on a bad run, and then next thing we're fighting for top 4 again. So if we want to prove we've actually turned a corner, then we need to just bounce back and beat these, because we are a better team than them. And I think any potential title challengers, they beat Arsenal. I mean, I don't think any team that's won a title over the last 5 years have lost to Arsenal. And we've already lost once. So if we don't get any wins out of Arsenal, then we're not winning the league, realistically.
Yeah, like what you're saying there, about like sorry, United going to Arsenal and being like they thinking they can just show up and beat them. I think that's a sort of a problem with United. Like when they're expected to beat a team, that's when they underperform. But like we saw in the league, when they're at the top of the league last week, I think it was, wasn't it? And they have the motivation to get there and they're determined, when their sort of people don't believe that they can do it. But as soon as they're at the top, and they're playing against like really poor teams like Sheffield United, let's be honest, they're probably one of the worst teams in the Premier League era, like this season. And they just, I don't know what it is, they just didn't perform. And United's been like that recently. Like I'm just looking back at your results there, and the last time you haven't won a game this year by more than a goal in the Premier. Oh no, never mind, that's a lie. Or is it? Yeah, no, you haven't won a game by more than a goal this year, and like that, you've played like Fulham and teams like that. I just the players don't seem determined enough, to be honest. And Bruno Fernandes, I think there's an over reliance on him, and when he had a poor game, I think when he has a poor game, it affects the whole team around him, to be honest. And you can see that, like, Martial wasn't playing well at the weekend. Rashford was poor, and the whole team just doesn't play well.
Our issue is that our front three, when we play Greenwood, Rashford, and Martial, they all want the ball to their feet. They all want to come towards the ball, and no one gets in the box. Like you saw Firmino yesterday, he does his work and then he sprints into the box, and the ball gets flashed across the goal countless times in a match. And Firmino, he may not get on the end of it all the time, but he's there. Our front three, they get the ball to their feet, they do their work, and they just stand. They don't run into the box, and that's Ollie's said this in interviews. They need the killer instinct. They need to get in the box. They need to score more tap-ins, and it's still not happening even with Ollie as manager, who's one of the best at it. So you have to question whether it's the coaching or whether the players don't actually want to do it. Like, I'm not sure. I'm presuming you've watched the game. How many times did we get to the byline? I don't think we got to the byline once. How many times did we flash the ball across the goal? We didn't. That's mainly because our strikers aren't in the box, and also our fullbacks are complete shit when going forward. I think Wan-Bissaka is extremely limited. I'm hoping Maitland-Niles he's apparently linked to a top four club, so I'm actually hoping it's us, because we could actually do with a footballer at right back rather than a slide tackle merchant. I think the tactics of our wingers not tracking other fullbacks back and just staying up the pitch in an attempt to counter-attack it's not a tactic. It's putting your defence under pressure. And if we do that, Tierney's going to eat us alive. If we leave, let's just say Greenwood forward, who may play on the right, Tierney's going to eat us alive against Wan-Bissaka. 2v1 against Wan-Bissaka. I'm guessing Aubameyang and Tierney are going to play down the left. If Wan-Bissaka gets left in 2v1, I guarantee you Tierney will get an assist. It's not a tactic not doing your defensive work. You have to do your defensive work, but then your transition has to be quick. You don't just not do it. That's sort of the only tactic I've seen from Ollie, to be honest. Just leave our wingers forward and hope that they get in, overcommit their fullbacks. It kind of worked against Liverpool, obviously, when Greenwood and Rashford both scored, but it's not going to work against the lower teams who are just going to sit. They're not even going to move their fullbacks forward most of the time. So when they do go forward, they need to be tracked, because you can't be conceding these sloppy goals. Like the goal they scored, Burke, I'm not sure what De Gea was doing, but then there was no winger there to pick up the ball, because more than likely he wasn't doing his defensive work. Then Burke got, I think, 3 shots and he eventually scored. So like, it was such a poor goal to concede, and it finished off a dismal day, really. I don't think we even deserved a draw. I think Sheffield deserved everything they got out of that match.
Yeah, completely agree. I think for United now, it's just about getting bouncing back. It's what we had to do, and you just have to keep trying to do it. And the thing that I'd say frustrates the most is because obviously they're bottom of the table and stuff. The performance, I know you said it has been coming, but you've been playing better than that, definitely. And yeah, I think the fullback, when you're talking about your fullbacks, I thought that was very good. I don't know who it was. It might have been Luke, actually. For me, if United want to kind of be up there and win titles, I don't think Wan-Bissaka's the one at all. At all. Unless he proves offensively, he can't cross the ball in. You know what it looks like? It looks like when he's on the ball, right? I know, it's no, it's not because he's not blindfolded. It's more he's trying to hold in his shit, do you know what I mean? And he's constipated on the ball. It's the weirdest, it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I think obviously tackling is good, but people kind of forget he makes those tackles when he's out of position a lot. So that's one to ponder for Ollie and all. And Maitland-Niles will not be a brilliant boy. I rate him so highly. I don't know why they let him go, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think it's stupid to let him go. But yeah, Sheffield, they're probably going to go down. I hope they do. But it's good to see them win once in a while. Fair play to Chris Wilder. Set his team up brilliantly. And yeah, before we move to the Liverpool game, right? This is actually an Irish interest. How bad is McGoldrick? Or do I just have an agenda? Like, he is dreadful. He went one on one like a couple of times and he just blazed every bar. Like, is he that? Like, I was having arguments on Twitter about it. How he's not the worst in the Premier League. I can't think of anyone worse. Like, he is dreadful. What's he do? He made me stop watching Ireland. Actually, no, James McClain did, but like Irish football, like, or the national team, it was like playing with 10 men. It was like playing with 18, 19 Lukaku. Just everything bounced off him. Um, yeah, I thought he was horrendous. Even though they won, I thought he was horrendous. I was trying to get that out there because I just think he's shite. So yeah, moving on to Liverpool Tottenham. Or it's Tottenham Liverpool, so it's there now. We're obviously back in the title race now. You know, we're back. Nah, seriously, I thought it was a brilliant performance. Fabinho was injured. We'll talk about the injuries later. Actually, we'll talk about the performance. I thought it was brilliant. Trent looks back in form. I thought Firmino was fantastic. Salah was good. Mane was moving a bit mad for a half an hour. He kept like losing the ball, missing chances, but he definitely picked it up in the second half. I thought Henderson playing centre back was brilliant. Thiago pushed up. We've been crying out for this. When Wijnaldum 6, Thiago pushed up, so basically just swapping the roles they've been playing. It's proven. It's just we look so much better. Thiago's higher up the pitch, he's able to affect the play better. Wijnaldum's actually where he's best suited, to accommodate his qualities, which is ball retention. I think he made like 12 ball recoveries, which is 4 more than anyone on the pitch, which was fantastic. But Connor, I think it showed good kind of character to come back now and go to a big team and win how they did. Like, what impressed you the most?
I'd probably say Trent Alexander-Arnold, to be honest. I mean, he's had a rough sort of couple of months really. He's been playing really poorly defensively. His crosses have been well off, but he was really good. He looked really confident again at the weekend. And I also think having Henderson at centre back does help. Like, obviously at the moment there's literally no centre backs available, but at least if you have like Henderson, he's a leader. Like, he's obviously the captain, one of the most vocal players on the pitch. And you can hear him with all the microphones now outside the pitch with no fans in the stadium, and you can hear how loud he is constantly, like, encouraging and telling people what's going on. And then you're saying as well about the midfield with Thiago playing out to the side a bit and pushing forward a bit more. And then Wijnaldum sitting, like, I still can't get over the fact they haven't come to an agreement with Wijnaldum over a contract renewal. I think he's probably one of the most underrated midfielders because he gets no credit at all compared to some of the other players. And then
Yeah,
obviously the front three, obviously, Salah obviously scored. It was a real doubt. Firmino looked really sharp again, and I think Charlie can probably agree with me on this one that on current form, Firmino is better than Tony Martial. But yeah, no, Firmino obviously, like, he played really well. His movement was good. I saw him tracking back. He had touches back of his own half, helping them play out from the back and getting into the boxes. I mean, he could have had a couple of goals, but he was really unselfish as usual. And obviously Mane's scoring was bonus as well.
yeah. It's so good to see them back amongst the goals, and I think Salah will feel hard done by having his goal this late, but yeah, brilliant all around. I thought even Robertson, he played well. Before we move on to kind of the big news that came out of it, like Liverpool having injuries now again, centre back. I just want to ask Luke, what do you think of Tottenham? Obviously, Kane went on after half time. And by the way, Kane, you deserve that. Hang on, he deserves that because he tried to back into the defender again and he fucking rolled his ankle. He deserves that. I'm sorry. You know the thing where he backs into the defender? Yeah? Someone nod. You know where he backs into the defender? When they're...
Yeah, I wouldn't say he deserves it. I would say it's been coming.
I don't care. Anyway, Luke, what do you think of... Were you disappointed at Tottenham? Were you Was that expected, or do you think
Uh,
they? Yeah.
sorry, I'm back now.
Oh,
Uh,
I thought it was my Wi-Fi. I was like, what is happening? No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought they were so bad. Tottenham. They were awful in every aspect. I think they were just. It's everything you wouldn't expect from a Mourinho team. They were so easy to play through. I don't know why Mourinho went with a back five. Firmino just dropped in, and Dombele's not great defensively already. Firmino just dropped in. You already had 3v2, so it became 4v2, and they just you played through them so easily. I think the two fullbacks were awful. Apparently, Lloris had a falling out with Aurier at halftime in the dressing room, and Aurier left the stadium at halftime. So that's not a good sign. Lloris himself was absolutely shambolic. You'd think after the halftime argument, he'd come out and maybe put in a good performance. He just hands Alexander-Arnold a goal. Awful. I think Matt Doherty was absolutely awful. He's been shocking since he signed for Spurs. He looks a shadow of the former player. I think Højbjerg was their only good player, and Ndombele was good going forward, but pretty suspect defensively. That's why he plays in a more advanced role when Spurs actually start and on park the bus team. They look awful up front when Kane came off. I don't know why Carlos Vinicius wasn't put on, considering he's done well every time he's played. Son through the middle didn't work. I don't know why Bale isn't starting over the likes of Bergwijn, and I don't know why Lamella's coming on. He's an awful player. It's just a passion merchant, if we're being completely honest. I was really disappointed with Spurs' display. It was terrible, really. Yeah, I'd like to add that Eric Lamela can go fuck himself because he ruined Martial's season. So Lamela deserves everything he gets. Fuck that.
I agree. Fuck you, Lamella. Fuck you. No, I'm only joking. Yeah, Tottenham kind of did disappoint me. I saw Højbjerg. I really rate him. I said from the start, by the way. Does anyone remember what I said? Actually, he's such a Mourinho signing, and he's been brilliant. So obviously, that's just me, not like my knowledge of football just shining through once again. But I thought he was terrific. Took his goal really well. The strike, I just sat there. I was like, Jesus, that's some strike. Like you just have to give it up to him. Like, do you know what I mean? So
See, you can't forget the amount of shots that he hits to Rose Ed from that exact same position. But like, like once or twice a season he does get a good goal like that. But I think him and Ndombele, like the two of them in midfield, I think they possibly are one of the best in the league at the moment on current form.
Yeah, definitely. I thought Ndombele was brilliant. He had Thiago's number for the first half an hour anyway. I thought it was brilliant. On Liverpool side, in midfield, obviously we were talking about. I thought Thiago kind of came to the game well. I think he played well. He came off after 77 minutes. He got the cut on his head, I think, but yeah, I thought he was very good. And then the subs that came on were great. But of course, like every win this season, there's always a downside somehow. Obviously, Fabinho felt something in training the day before. He has no chance for Sunday against West Ham, which is an issue. But he should be back after that, I'm guessing. It was only minor, but match up his ligaments, ankle ligaments, they're saying there is hope that it's not as bad as they said. But the fact now that we have no centre backs come up to Sunday, like it's kind of now come to a stage where we're just expecting us to sign one. I think we will. There's rumours starting to circulate already. But I just want to say, right, don't get me wrong, Joe Matchup, he's been brilliant for us. I really do rate him. But he has to go in the summer. He has to go. He gets injured every week. Every 2 weeks he gets injured. He can't put a running game together. You know, we rested him, right? We rested him on Sunday so he could be fit for yesterday. Yeah. And he still gets injured. How does that work? But yeah, we've no centre backs now, so
yeah, I think personally, I think Henderson has to play centre back from now on. Like I was saying earlier, like I think his like leadership and just like he's so loud and he tells people what to do. He's experienced. He knows where to be. Like I know he's not naturally a centre back, but he seems like the best option to have at the moment. And then if he has like not to look for someone alongside him for now, hopefully until we get another centre back, even on loan.
Yeah, I
But I
think
think what do you think of the Wijnaldum situation? I think
yeah,
get a
he's
deal
gone.
done for him. I think
I think
they need to renew his contract.
they do, but I think he's gone because
It's been
he's
like this for
looking
way
for.
too long. Like they're just
Yeah,
I don't know
but
what
see,
the issue is. They're like afraid
yeah.
to spend money at the moment.
See, the thing is, right? I I kind of side with the board on this one because when I'm 30, right? Why he's going to be 34 by the end of his contract and he wants like 160 or plus a week? Like, you can't be spending that on someone who's like come to the end of his career, you know? But I don't know. I would love him to stay. Don't get me wrong, but if you don't come to agreement, you don't come to agreement. That's just how it works. So
Did
he
did you
still has
not
to say,
do what did you not do what Wijnaldum was asking for with Thiago though?
what you mean?
Like, is he not around 30 and you've given him the deal with a lot of money for
Yeah, but
a good
Thiago's
few
just,
years?
yeah, but Thiago's one of the best midfielders in the world. Wijnaldum isn't.
I think the point is, like, no offense, you can easily replace Wijnaldum. Like, if you take Wijnaldum out of your starting 11, it's not making a massive effect. If we're being
Yeah,
honest, like
yeah,
I know Thiago doesn't have a great win rate, but if you take him out of the team, it would probably have a big effect. You'd probably just go through your fullbacks again. I think your ability to actually play through the middle now that you have someone creative in midfield just adds an extra dimension to your team. Obviously, when Van Dijk and all come back, I think you could be extremely dangerous when like that that starting 11 you've been posting up on Twitter that you wish would start. Well, if that can actually put a run of games together, then I don't see a reason why you can't win the league next year. But I think this year, saying you're back in the title race, it's a bit premature, if we're being honest. I think
I know. I'm just
once
gassing him.
once Lingard bags a screamer against you on the weekend, you'll be back in your box, and we'll be seeing whatever dance move he pulls out now.
Yeah, I'm happy for him as well. To be fair, that's really good because he's probably had a really hard couple of years. So I think it would have been so annoying if he just went abroad or some shit. Like he needs to be in the Premier League. Like I think there still is a talent there, and I think West Ham. That's a brilliant move from West Ham. That's
Yeah,
such a good move.
West Ham, if you think about it, like outside the sort of the big clubs at the moment, like obviously like
Yeah,
West Ham like have a lot of money with the new like stadium and all, and they have like good players at the club, so like it's not like it's sort of a step down to a championship level club. Like it's
mm.
well, like obviously it's a step down, but like West Ham are still a quality team at the moment.
Yeah. They're like fifth, so it's still
It'll be
going.
difficult to get in that starting 11 actually, because I think Ben Rama plays in the 10 with Bowen and Fornals either side. I don't think Fornals is a great player. I think he has a good work rate, but on the ball, he's sloppy at times. I think Ben Rama might move out to the left or right, and Lingard might come in as the 10 because
Yes.
he's not going to dislodge Bowen. I think Bowen is extremely underrated player. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a big move coming up in the years ahead because he's still young and I think he has lots of quality that people haven't realised yet.
Yeah. All right, Paul. It should be a good game on the weekend actually against them. But we need a win. We definitely need a win because I think we need to win against Brighton again as well, and then we play City. Not this weekend, next weekend, of course. So we need to make sure that we can keep the same gap, and hopefully they drop points, but they probably won't. And I think they're playing Sheffield and then Fulham. I want to say, but anyway, yeah, that's for this weekend. I'm sure we'll have to discuss next week. But yeah, I think we've covered everything. To be fair, I think it's definitely starting to kind of heat up into a very interesting title race, top four race, and everything. And everyone's dropping points. You know, I couldn't call it from here to be honest with you. City are definitely favourites, but we'll have to. Um, Sorry. Yeah, sorry there. Yeah, but I think that's all we've time for. To be fair, we've been going for a bit as well. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. Um, thanks, boys, once again. Luke and Charlie, don't worry. It's a depressing time. Okay, I experienced that like a week ago. It's bad, but it won't pick up hopefully. But you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry. But yeah, thanks again. To you lads again. We've been going for like an hour and 10 minutes. That's good. But yeah, don't forget to obviously subscribe, share with your mates, please. Yes. Because like realistically, like you watch Sky Sports, but they don't know as much as us, and they don't swear, so it's just weird. All right. But yeah, anyway, nah, serious. Thanks a million. But yeah, that's it.